What a Wild Spirit Brings by Lil, Chapter 34. She flew once in the wilder back toward Andari, and almost growled with frustration when the two sister wild ones were waiting on the first mountain from the capital for her. They appeared to be planning to slowly make their way to her, and she didn't want that. "Hello!" Blaxian shouted. Lil didn't land. Instead, she suddenly had a dark snowball for each woman and threw them down. Both of them were shocked. Trixian dodged hers, but Blaxian got hit right in the face. "Light! It's cold! Light!" Blaxian shouted. "I thought I asked not to be followed," Lil said from the air. Blaxian stopped pulling melting snow off her skin and looked up at her in confusion. "What?" "Don't be angry with her, for I am the one who did not tell her," Trixian said. "Sister, you dishonor yourself!" Lil stepped out of the air. "I was worried about her." Suddenly Trixian was pulling down the top of her dress. Lil hurriedly looked away, toward Blaxian with what she hoped was an expression of questioning. Light, was this a test? Were they going to stone her for looking at the naked breasts? "You must beat her until you feel your honor is satisfied," Blaxian stated. "Wait, beat her?" "Yes, but she is my friend. I couldn't do that." "She has disgraced herself and you by lying. Penance is required." "But I can't. I don't want penance. I just want you both to, stop following me." "I don't want to beat Trixian." "You refuse to let her redeem her honor?" Lil felt completely frustrated. She glanced at Trixian, hoping to find some semblance of a way out in her face, and found her on her knees with her bare back facing her. Her back had scars where she had been strapped violently before, and old cuts healed over wrong, and even some odd burns. Lil wanted to weep. What happened to her?" "Other punishments for other dishonors. When she was a girl, she kissed another. Both were severely punished." Trixian remained on the ground where she was, contrite, waiting without complaint or even shudder for whatever beating she thought was in store. Lil suddenly hated the Entha. For a moment she wanted to hit Blaxian. For a moment she wanted to reach out and just hold Trixian. She wanted to take Trixian away to live in Yedem with her. Maybe they could both find peace. Maybe. Instead, she looked at Blaxian right in the eye and said, "I will not beat her. She can keep her honor. I will not add to her stripes. I will not harm someone I care about for some custom. I won't. She is a good woman. I won't. You hear me? I won't." You may choose another penance. Beating is simply the most common," Blaxian said, unfazed. "Any?" "Any." "Then put your clothes back on, Trixian, and follow me. You want to see if water can freeze? Then fine. That shall be your penance. I can stand that." Trixian obeyed while her sister nodded, satisfied. "I will not come back tonight. I cannot stand this." "Our ways are hard for you only because you are so used to the weakness of Greenlanders. You will learn." Lil didn't reply. She leapt into the air and Trixian melted and followed her on the ground, a moving puddle. Lil led her not to the cell, but to a pond that was en route to Munchin's house. It was frozen over even in the wilder. "We're here." Trixian materialized up from the pool that was her travel way. She looked calm and stood tall, but a little fear was about her eyes. Lil stood with her eyes open and made a sled. "How is it you do that?" "Do what?" "Make things appear. I don't know this way, neither does my sister. If you had not spoken first, she would have asked you about it. My grandmother can do it, but, well, only the ancient wild ones know how. The young are considered too lacking in wisdom for such a skill." "Oh, Munchin, a friend taught me how." "A male? A berserker?" "He wasn't so bad, and I told him about his madness, but his wife wasn't worried because he's always been mad. I told them. I don't know what else I could have done about it. We must know where this Munchin lives and chase him to Shalom immediately. It is a simple enough thing from the wilder to make him run." He'll go when he gets worse." "It doesn't work like that, Lil. He must go, especially if he's already mad." "Why, he and his wife have just been reunited. It's not fair." "And what happens when he kills his wife accidentally? What happens when he wakes up in her blood?" "But I do not agree with Blaxian about the Entha knowing all the best ways. Neither does Tindra, or most of the Entha, actually. Laws are changing, slowly, but they are. Duty is still foremost, but tradition is no longer the definition of duty. Perhaps when I am old, I would even be able to know a woman. But some things are not mere tradition. The laws on rape will never falter. The laws on berserkers never will, either. Some things are unpleasant but necessary. I am sorry you will lose your friend, but please understand that how you know him now is how you want to remember him. You don't want to be haunted by him as a madman slaughtering others blindly, do you? You don't want to be responsible for letting others die, do you? Tears filled Lil's eyes, and she started dragging the sled onto the ice. She stopped after 4 steps and sat on it. She patted the sled behind her for Trixien to get on. Lil, get on the damn sled! Trixien got on. Lil made herself get up and stood, holding a rope at the front of it. I will go back and tell him face to face that he must go. I will on my mother's honor, and if he won't listen, I will make him go. Me. He's my friend, and it's my duty to him. Trixien nodded in understanding. So you will be quiet about him as you were about me not wanting to be followed? Lil said with a little grin. Trixien blushed slightly and said yes. Good, then let's see about your punishment. When you ride a sled, you have to hold onto the little rail on the sides, yes, like that. Now spread your legs when I'm in front of you, yes. Just make sure you hold on and you'll be fine. Hop off now. Trixien did, smoothing her skirt and looking confused. Lil handed her the rope and pointed up to the top of the little hill overlooking the pond. Trixien pulled it up to the top where Lil flew up. Then they hopped on this, and the sled went down the hill and across the lake, which shot them out into the snowy fields some ways. Trixien actually laughed with delight, and Lil couldn't help but join her. She made Trixien take it back up, and the woman actually lifted her skirt to run. She almost beat Lil back. They sled over and over until Lil said she had better go back. The light and the flush in Trixien's face instantly dimmed, and she was solemn again. This was not a very good punishment, Lil. I enjoyed it. I believe you have misunderstood somehow. No, I didn't. I refuse to punish you for something I'm not even mad about, especially when you've been tortured in life for reasons I completely disagree with. Part of me loves the Entha, and part of me hates them. I love Tindra and Mother and you and even Blacksea most of the time. I love the Entha people, but I even love most of your customs. But I despise others. With all I am, I do. There is nothing wrong with you, Trixien. You aren't damned just because you preferred women. Trixien looked extremely uncomfortable. Lil hugged her even though the woman flinched. She couldn't help it. Her heart truly went out to her. Lil, you mustn't. You are a beautiful person. I will never stone you, not ever. I won't punish you, not ever. Not you. Lil, please, don't speak thus. Your tone is as dangerous as your words. Lil stopped talking, but she didn't let go for a while. She had to find a way to change that law. If some laws were changing, she pulled away and smiled at Trixien. Trixien looked dumbfounded and scared when she said, You are an odd woman, Lil. And you are a wonderful one. Lil chimed, giving a mock bow to Trixien. Trixien laughed a little, still worried, and said in an effort to change the subject, You will teach me how to make things, won't you? Oh, yes, of course I will, Lil replied, smiling. Trixien completely regained herself with that and said, May you ever have allies in water, Lil. And you will ever have me as your ally, Trixien, and this frozen water to remember, Lil said with a softer smile. Trixien blushed and then dissipated into her traveling pole and hurried away. Lil stood gazing at her after her for some time before she realized it must be late morning in the real world, and hurried back to her hedges. She was going to go see the Tri if she could about that law. If she could convince the power to stop a war, surely she could convince them.